This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. We're talking to Professor Kotikoff, who created the max5planner.com. That'll focus on giving you more peace of mind, more money, smarter decisions. And it uses the work of economics, not just financial planning. A lot of these financial planning tools, they just do all these things. They tell you the pie. And what I love about your stuff is it's beyond that. It focuses more on real life. And a lot of times people say, well, I did a financial plan and it didn't work. And that's because you didn't focus on all of the negative variables. So talk about that, Professor Kotikoff. First, the cliffhanger. What was the cliffhanger? I forgot it. It was college planning, and then we'll go to software construction and why most financial planning software is a little misguided. What about college, planning for college? What are your tips there? How do you fund college? Don't
first
go.
Of all, 40% of the kids who go to college, who start out going to college, drop out. Okay, a lot of people are borrowing a ton of money to fail out of college, so it's highly risky just to begin with. Just from that single statistic should give people pause about borrowing money to do something where before you even start out, you've got a 40% chance, if you're the typical person, of borrowing money for nothing except to pay the money back. And you can't get out from under it. You can't discharge your liability through bankruptcy when it comes to a student loan. They'll take it out of your payroll. They'll take it out of your check, your wages. They'll take it out of your Social Security benefit if you haven't paid your student loans into your 60s when you start taking Social Security. So what I say is don't borrow. If you're in a low-income household, your family's low income, the top schools are heavily discounting tuition and providing grants. So the price is actually cheapest for the people that are poor. So when it comes to college, the poor have a fantastic advantage over the rich, over the middle class and the rich. The rich kids, their parents can pay whatever, so it's not an issue for them. But the middle class kids are really the ones who have to be careful. And what I talk about is that paying a lot of money to go to a fancy name college is just not going to pay off in the marketplace. The research that has been done by economists.
Not even Boston University?
Well, of course, if you came to Boston University, it would pay off, but no, it doesn't pay off. And Boston University can be very expensive. It could be $75,000 for 4 years, and that's a huge amount of money for if you're upper middle class and you get no particular grants and you're borrowing money and then your parents, you borrow up to your limit, and then your parents are allowed to borrow up the difference.
Boston University, this just in, they just called me. They have fired you from the director of marketing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no. Boston University will pay off, but everything else will be, don't go, Harvard is the place you want to worry about. But I know people.
I will tell you, I'd rather my kids, I have 7 kids now, Larry. We just had another one.
Oh, Mazel Tov, that's terrific.
I'm going to go broke on college. But I would rather my kids be educated by you than most really wacky leftist economist. I don't know what do you call it? The modern. Are you a modern monetary theory guy?
No, these people aren't really real economists. They're not theorists and they're not modern. They're just charlatans pretending to know. I mean, if you listen to these people, I've debated the supposed leaders of this movement, and what they say has no connection to
reality.
Economic theory. Yeah, reality, and it's very very vague, and they can't write down in mathematical terms what they're trying to say, what they think is going to be true. But what we do know that is true, and this is also important to our future finances personally, is that the country is broke. The country has been running up huge bills that We have an official debt that's 100% of GDP. It was 30% of GDP back in 2008. So we have, on an official basis, gone crazy with our borrowing. And then Social Security has got about 2.5 years, not 100%, but 250% of GDP unfunded liability, according to their trustees report that came out 2 weeks ago. So just those two things alone shows the country's bankrupt. And then you put everything else together, and the picture actually looks worse.
And it looks worse when you think about the rise of CBDCs. Digital currencies are really taking hegemony away from the dollar. Like, we're losing our foothold. People don't realize, for the U.S. to be destroyed as the world reserve currency, they're not going to say buy dollar. They're going to say, we're going to get a basket of currencies. We're going to put a little CBDC. We're going to put a little dollar. We're going to make it more of the dollar. So the dollar is going to get 90% at first, and then 80, and then 60, and then all of a sudden it'll be 10%. And people don't realize that will be destruction for the U.S. economy that we've never seen. What say you about that?
So I think the country's bankrupt, and I think the country has been printing money at the wazoo. The Fed has been, the amount of money that they printed is 6 times the stock of what's called base money is 6 times bigger than it was in 2008. So we've had this enormous expansion of money printing. At the same time, the country's borrowing. So a lot of what's going on here is that the Treasury borrows money, and then the Fed prints money to buy up the bonds that the Treasury just sold to the private sector. So it's really just the government printing green dollar bills, in effect, electronically to buy stuff or to give certain people money. And countries that engage in money printing to pay for their bills end up with inflation, and we're starting to see that happen now. A lot of people think the increase is temporary and that it's due to bottlenecks, and surely that's surely a part of it. But there's a basis here in underlying the system, given how much money has been printed in recent decades, for a hyperinflation, really. So I'm somebody who's very concerned about the long-term. When you have the trustees report telling us we've got a $59 trillion unfunded liability, and it's in Table 6F1 of the trustees report, and they hide it in the appendix, and none of the trustees will talk about that. Even in the report, in the summary of the report, they ignore entirely the most important table in the trustees report that says we're 2.5 years broke just from Social Security of GDP. We've got a problem. When we can't pass this infrastructure bill, when that becomes somehow too expensive to and we can't invest in a decent education system. I'm speaking to you now, as you know, from Switzerland. I'm here giving some lectures for the month, and the difference in infrastructure when you drive around Germany or South Korea or Switzerland, I fortunately get to go to lots of countries, and just the degree to which these countries have their acts together, the degree to which they provide decent education to their kids, the degree to which they treat everybody well, so that there's not people that are kind of living on the street starving, the cleanliness of the place. It's just amazing. It's like day and night compared to where we are in the U.S. So we are, as you said, we are at the end of our economic empire, as far as I can tell. And then the other thing is that, if you look at the projections that I've done and others about where China will be at the end of the century versus the U.S., their economy will likely be twice as large as ours, if not even larger as a ratio. So the U.S. is heading towards a second-rate economic status, and we're not going to be able to police the world. We're seeing our pulling back on that, and you're saying the dollar is going to likely not become, it's going to lose its place as the
Well,
world.
I mean, talk to a kid, talk to your students, right? They don't believe in the dollar anymore. They believe in Bitcoin. They believe in cryptocurrencies, all of these things. It's not like people don't want dollars anymore, right? I mean, I want your take on it.
I think,
Actually, when we return, we'll hold that thought. That'll be the cliffhanger. Kotlikoff on crypto and Bitcoin. When we return, this is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback.
The preceding program was sponsored by the Jalinski Advisory Group.
Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications, including 5-Star Wealth Manager, Advisory of the Year finalist by Senior Market Advisor, and Top of the $1 Million Roundtable, are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Josh Jalinski or Wealth Quarterback LLC. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Wealth Quarterback website at www.jalinski.org. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions, the information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, Josh Jalinski and Wealth Quarterback do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature, is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation.
Advisory services offered through Wealth Quarterback LLC.